Ready?
All set.
You have speed?
Speed.
Okay. Well, Peter, it's nice to have a chance to meet you finally.
Well, it's great
because
to be here.
I have interviewed your father a number of times over the years, and I couldn't help but think about the fact that you are in the most envious situation a son can be in. Because here you were for, what, 8-10 months on this film. You are the producer, your father is working for you, and you have the opportunity to tell him he can or can't do something.
Well, first of all, you don't often tell Kirk Douglas he can and can't do something. You kind of ask him nicely, but basically that's true. I actually was on the picture for 3.5 years, and on board the star, the real star of the picture, which is the USS Nimitz, for 8 months. And our production took over 3.5 months with our first team, our actors. And beyond Kirk Douglas, we have quite a nice little collection as well, such as Martin Sheen and Catherine Ross and James Ferrantino.
Wanted to ask you about Martin Sheen, as a matter of fact, because I see some parallels between what he does in The Final Countdown and what he did in Apocalypse. And, of course, Apocalypse was such a horrendous experience for them with all the problems they had on that picture. Did you have to twist his arm to do this?
Well, no, we had to pay him to do this, but we didn't have to do anything more than pay him his going rate. He wanted to do it. It wasn't that demanding a role for Marty or for any of the other actors. Really, they all recognized that they were subservient to the real star of the picture, which, as I said before, is the Nimitz. And each actor in the film represents, or I tried very hard to allow them to represent a different point of view in the given situation. Marty was the person that said, let's use the situation. By the way, I don't know if the audience is aware that it is a story of the nuclear-powered carrier, the USS Nimitz, which on December the 6th, 1980, disappears on routine patrol in the Pacific Ocean and reappears on December the 6th, 1941, the day before the attack on Pearl Harbor between the Japanese fleet and the Pearl. And of course, you have all kinds of points of view in that situation, especially on a military ship. And Marty's, for example, is that we should stop them and imagine what the Nimitz could do. And that, I mean, Marty's motivation is that beyond that incident, what the Nimitz, a powerful ship, the Nimitz could do, I mean, it could control the world. My father, of course, is a by-the-book commanding officer. Ron O'Neill is all Navy all the way. He thinks we should just blow them the hell out of the water because look what they did. On the other hand, you have the paradoxes. If you did that, then we'd be declaring war on Japan. We might even stop the motivation that created the atomic bomb. And unfortunately, with the negatives that does bring, it also, I think, brought about the end of World War II. And God, it could well have fallen into Hitler's hands. He wouldn't have hesitated to use it if we hadn't had it first. So all kinds of paradoxes that are explored in the film.
Peter, your father was brought up in a very poverty sort of atmosphere, very poor parents, and he worked so hard to get where he is and everything he's achieved. It's been kind of self-made man. Now, all of you kids, of course, came along in his affluent years. Did he ever say to you or ever try to convey to you that not everybody is rich and not everybody has affluence and all the advantages of that? Did he ever talk with you?
Did he ever? Just now I went down to see him in his suite and he wanted to remind me that this doesn't always happen when you're out on your own. No, that's a very, very important thing for him. In fact, my father, and legitimately looks at it, and I understand his point of view, that I've had tremendous disadvantages in my life, and I know that the audience is going to think, oh, sure he has. Well, from my father's point of view, the disadvantages that he's referring to is I've never been poor, so I really, therefore, don't know what it means to be rich or to be affluent. I am not personally rich, but he's certainly a very rich man. And while I understand the point of view, I don't quite agree with it. I feel that I have traveled all over the world and been lucky enough to do that. I have seen poverty. I have enjoyed some affluence. I've also, through my school years and college years, not by any means driven around in the image of Hollywood and the Ferraris and so forth. I had to go out and get my first car, and while there were advantages, there were also very, very important elements to my parents, which were that he should be brought up somewhat normal. I think that what you have to realize in this kind of a situation that can also occur is that the affluence can also bring about an increased desire to be an individual. I hope I have that. I know my brother Michael has that. And that even though my father went from here to here, and maybe we can start here, we all are trying to get here. And this isn't to say that the ladder is endless, but that everybody tries in their own way to establish themselves individually. And just because you're poor doesn't mean you can't eventually grow to affluence. And just because you come from affluence doesn't mean you cannot maintain it on your own.
Well, Peter, I think that you have set your career off in a very fine way and with a great deal of momentum with the final countdown. I hope it does well for you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to knowing what your next project is.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you, Peter.
It's a pleasure being here.
All right, now I'll just cheat around over this way and we'll get some reactions and some questions. How is this looking? If I look right about here?
No, I'm out of this.
Yeah,
right?
you're,
Okay,
and you
sure.
don't need to answer.
Terrific,
I'm
thank
just
you.
used to doing this, Peter. All right, some reactions first. Okay, questions. Peter, you are in an enviable situation as the son in this final countdown project because you're the producer, your father is the star, and you have, for what, 8 or 10 months, you had the, what am I trying to say? Let me start that one over. Okay. The authority, that's the word I was looking for.
Would it help
Okay.
if I...
No, no. Okay. Peter, I would think that you were in an enviable situation when you were making this film, 8, 10 months, whatever it was. You were working with your father because you're the producer, you're the boss, your father was the star working for you, and you actually had the authority to tell Kirk Douglas he could or couldn't do something. Right. I wonder if it was that you had to talk Martin Sheen into doing this role, because I see many parallels between what he does in the final countdown and what he did in Apocalypse Now. And of course, Apocalypse Now, they went through such torture getting that film on the screen. Peter, your father is definitely the self-made man. He came from very poor, humble immigrant parents and had to struggle so hard to get where he is. You came along at a time in his life when you were surrounded with affluence. Does he ever remind you of what it was like to be poor? Does he ever try to talk with you about that sort of thing? Well, Peter, I think you're off and running with a great deal of momentum as far as your career is concerned, and I look forward to seeing what your next project is after the final countdown. Okay, that should do it.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.